Let's see, you can open your Bible. We're going to be spending time in John, Gospel, the first chapter. And then from there, we'll be putting all over the place. Exodus, Genesis, Wisdom of Solomon, Second Peter, Hebrews. So as you've been reading in the bulletin, this class is more intentionally catechetical. Meant to be an extension of the catechism class that's offered generally on Saturday mornings. But this is for everybody because I think all of us need to understand these materials that we'll be presenting. So we have two general. If we could entitle what we want to do this semester, both Sunday morning adult ed and also the catechism classes. We could entitle it as Salvation as Theosis. That's the Greek. Theo is Greek. I believe all these others are Latin. Deification, divinization, sanctification, because sanctus, holy, become holy as I am holy. That's deification. Glorification. The Lord asked the Father in his incarnation, he asked the Father to that the Father give to him the glory that he had with the Father before the foundation of the world. And then he talks about giving us his glory, glorification, that also is theosis. And then the subtitle or the continuing title would be And the Way, the Path to Theosis or to Salvation. So this doctrine of theosis is peculiar to the Orthodox Church. No one else teaches it. No one. The Romans don't teach it. The Protestants don't teach it. They couldn't if they wanted to. Because the doctrine of theosis presupposes it belongs to, and here's a big word, it belongs to an ontology that is revealed only in the Bible. It is revealed in the Bible, in the biblical confession of Jesus Christ as the Son of God. And in that confession, seeing God as Holy Trinity. This is a point that would take some doing to demonstrate, and I don't intend to demonstrate it. Don't have the time. But the ontology that is, so how would we understand ontology? Let's say ontology, it comes from the Greek word, it's the doctrine of being, what it is to be, how being is, the shape of being. Let's use the word reality. You could say that ontology is the study of how reality is shaped and how it moves. In other words, what are you? Well, obviously you're a man, a woman. What is it to be a human? Where does humanity come from? Where does anything come from? What is it that makes anything to be what it is and not something else? But I like to define ontology as a map of reality that shows where the treasure is. So enough of that. I simply want to make the point here that theosis, the doctrine of theosis, I should say the biblical doctrine of theosis, deification, is taught only in the Orthodox Church, and it belongs to a vision of reality that is revealed in the Bible through the confession of Jesus as the Christ, the Son of God, and of God as Holy Trinity. Yeah, I know. The Romans, the Protestants confess Christ as the Son of God. They confess God as Holy Trinity, but it goes much deeper than that, much deeper than that. Our doctrine of Christ and our doctrine of the Holy Trinity is not aligned with the West. This is evident, for example, in the insertion into the creed of the Filioque, the Father, that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. For now, you'll have to accept that as all what I'm saying as an assertion. But the point that I'm wanting to make is that theosis is a biblical doctrine, and that it presupposes the biblical doctrine of reality. Now, so this morning, what I want to do is I'm going to spend a little bit of time, well, maybe the whole time, in the Bible. I want to demonstrate from biblical texts how this biblical doctrine of theosis, and to show you that it is a biblical doctrine. I'm not going to worry about trying to make you understand the contours of the different ontologies that are at work between philosophy, Latin, Western Christianity, and Orthodoxy. I'm not going to take time to do that. But I think that it is nonetheless, it's an important thing, because even though you may not be theologians or philosophers, and even though when I say the word ontology, you're immediately lost, the fact is that you have grown up, outside the Orthodox Church. You have been raised and you have been shaped in a culture that is itself shaped by a certain ontology, a certain understanding of reality. And that has shaped you, even though you don't even consider yourself perhaps a theologian or a philosopher. It has shaped you. And you may experience that shaping, that you don't have a clue about what it's all about. You couldn't explain. You couldn't even begin to explain it if you wanted to. It is demonstrated to you how you have been shaped in a different ontology than what is operating in the Orthodox Church when you encounter the doctrine of theosis for the first time, and you are startled. It startles you if it doesn't actually scandalize you. And you immediately, maybe unconsciously, maybe beneath, to yourself, you find your mind saying, "That's not Christian. That sounds more like something you'd read in the Upanishads." That is the evidence that you have been shaped by a different ontology, and that's why ontology is critical. But as I say, I'm not going to take the time to unpack the different ontologies so that you can see how the ontology, the understanding of reality is different in the Orthodox Church than anywhere else. I'm just going to take you to the Bible. And we're going to start talking about theosis as it is revealed in certain texts. And we'll see, because I'm suspecting that your experience may be like mine. I started going to, I matriculated at Fordham University, and I was going to St. Vladimir's Orthodox Theological Seminary. What was I? In my I think I was 27 or so, 26, 27. I already had several consonants after my name. I had a degree from a graduate school, Nazarene Theological Seminary in Kansas City. I had my Master's of Divinity. And I want to say this is important to know, that I took the hardest professors and the hardest classes. And I was at the top of my class. That's important to know. Not only because it makes you look at me and it makes you, it's so that you're impressed with me. That's one reason. But the other reason is because you need to understand that I was smart. I was not stupid. So when I come to Fordham University, I start sitting into the classes under Father Meindorf in his classes, and he starts talking, Orthodox theology, drawing from the Bible, drawing from the patristics, the Holy Church Fathers, and talking I have to say that I was lost because he was talking from a completely different ontology. And when I encountered that doctrine of theosis for the first time, it was about now. Here I am at St. Vladimir Seminary. Already, as I said, several consonants after my name, top of my class, completely shaped in the evangelical church, which is completely shaped by the ontology, the shape of reality that is operating in Latin theology, mostly from Augustine and on. When I first heard the doctrine of theosis, I was startled. I had never heard it before. So this is to say, so I was a theologian. I had been reading philosophers and philosophy. Okay, so I knew something about ontology, and I was startled. But nonetheless, at the same time, I have to say that I have to say that what the reason I was at Fordham University in the first place was because back at Nazarene Theological Seminary, I had taken a class under my favorite church history professor, Dr. Paul Bassett, my senior year at maybe it was my junior year. It was towards the end of my seminary career there in Kansas City. I took a class entitled Augustine and the Cappadocians, Alternative Orthodoxies, is how Bassett titled the class, which of course is the typical way that a Nazarene would do. That's how Nazarene would entitle it. And I was completely taken by the Cappadocians, completely taken by them. It was to me, having studied the Augustinian principles that govern Wesleyan theology, from Sunday school up into college, up into Nazarene Seminary, reading the Cappadocians for the first time, the three holy Cappadocians, St. Basil, St. Gregory of the 4th century, all bishops in that area of the Cappadocia. I was completely taken. I felt like I was scaling a mountain, and that there was the sun. It was spring, fresh air. This brook gurgling down the mountainside, the snowmelt river, clean and fresh. That's how I felt. So that's why I was at Fordham, because when I had read the Cappadocians and was completely taken by them, that's when I resolved that I wanted to study the Greek Church Fathers. Well, to study the Greek Church Fathers in the United States, there's only 2 or 3 guys that you want to study under. Father John Meindorf is one of them. So that's why I was at Fordham, to study the Greek Church Fathers under Father John Meindorf. So what I'm saying is that even though I did not understand the ontology, the shape of reality that the doctrine of theosis belongs to, and was even startled by it, I have to say that at the same time, it caught me. It was like breathing in a breath of fresh air. So maybe you will have the same experience in the time that's left this morning, as we go now through some texts, some biblical texts. And even though you don't know the ontology that is shaping you, even those of you who are in the Orthodox Church or cradle, you may not realize how much we've been shaped, even in the Orthodox Church in America, by an understanding of reality that is not biblical. It's not Orthodox. So you may have the same experience. We'll see. But what I want to do right now is I want to demonstrate how the doctrine of theosis is biblical. It is the biblical doctrine. So therefore, you can consider for yourself what the significance might be that the only church that teaches the salvation as theosis is the Orthodox Church. Well, first of all, the formula for theosis is classically drawn from St. Athanasius of Alexandria in the 4th century. But I don't know that he is the first one of the fathers to talk like this, because I'm thinking that I've seen a similar phrase in St. Irenaeus of Lyon.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's true.
Yeah, I believe St. Herman says.
Yes. All right. And St. Irenaeus was what, he was in the last, let's say the third quarter of the 3rd century, right? Second century.
Irenaeus was the student of Polycarp. He's a student of John.
I believe you're right.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. But you also will find, not the exact formula, but you'll find references like, deification formulas in St. Ignatius of Antioch. For example, when he talks about the blood of God, the death of God. That's deification language. So anyway, the classical formula for capturing the essence of this doctrine of theosis is God became man, that man might become God. I don't know that I'm going to embarrass you any, but it really would be interesting to know how many of you are startled. How many right now are, but you hear that, right? Because there's immediate, whoa. Okay. There's the evidence that you're coming into a different ontology, a different understanding of reality. Now, but let me ask you the question. Do you really think St. Athanasius or St. Irenaeus is the first one to formulate that? Do you really think that they invented that? It's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. Let's find it in the Bible. That's why I want you to be in the Gospel of John. Where's my Bible? Let's go to John chapter 1. All St. Irenaeus and St. Athanasius are doing is they're just rephrasing what we all will read in St. John. And not only, because St. John is the one really who kind of crystallizes the whole doctrine, the whole biblical doctrine of salvation into this formula. How about John 1:14? What do we read in John 1:14? And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Matthew and I have talked about this verb, eskinoso. It comes from the word skini, which means skins. It's the word used for tents. And it's translated as what? He dwelt among us. But as Matthew and I have shared with you, it could be just as easily translated, he pitched his tent. That is to say, he pitched the tent of his body, his flesh, among us. And even in Greek, the verb, the preposition is in, which can mean among, but it's more than alongside. You're in the middle. Now, let me ask you, who is this Logos that becomes flesh? Who is he? Where are you going to find an answer? Well, all over through the Bible, of course, but even in John's Gospel, where might you go? You just have to turn the page, at least in my Bible. Just turn the page.
Chapter 1, verse 1.
Chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Now there you have God, you have the article, so it was with the God, which is a typical formulation to refer in the biblical New Testament theology to the Father. So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with the Father, And now it says, and the Word was God. Now for God, there's no article, just in God. So, translating it in kind of a strict way, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with the Father. In fact, the Word was God. The Word was divine. Now, let me ask, this is important to know. Just 2 or 3 characteristics and properties of God, the Holy Trinity. No, I won't take the time. I'll cut to the chase. I'll tell you. The chief one that we're going to deal with is uncreated. God is uncreated. Everything else is created. So when it says that the Logos, the Word, was God, it means that he's uncreated. When it says that he's with the Father, well, that's the biblical way of saying that he's of one essence with the Father. Begotten, not made. True God, begotten, not made, of one essence with the Father, by whom all things were made. Matthew?
So the verb that John uses here is "eimi." It's
Very good. Now, wait a minute. Where are you?
John 1. John 1:1.
Oh, yes. The to be verb.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
That's
yes.
very different in terms of Greek philosophy. From the ginomai
Yes.
that is later used to describe he became flesh.
You can go through John chapter 1, verses 1 to 18, and if you're in the Greek, you can look at all the instances where he uses the to be verb, and all the instances where he uses the to become verb. And in every instance, when he uses the to be verb, he's referring to the Logos in his uncreated essence, one essence with the Father. And whenever he uses the to become verb, he's referring to the Logos becoming flesh in his created state. But there's something else here going on. I can't. It's just too exciting. I can't. It takes us maybe a minute or two off the track. But in the beginning, it says that God said, "Let there be light." That's the to become verb. Let there be light. Who might that light be? See, I was reading this philosophically for so many years. And so I was thrown by that verb to become. I was reading it as a philosopher, not as a theologian. And so I was believing that this light couldn't be the Logos because it's created, obviously. It's the become verb. But then it dawned on me, I don't know how, that the Bible uses the verb to become in a different way than philosophy. And this becomes especially evident in, for example, Wisdom of Solomon, where he says that God created the world in order to be. He created the world in order to be. Being is not created. So clearly we're dealing with a different ontology, a different understanding of reality. So the point is, in the beginning, the light comes, God says, "Let there be light." God speaks the word, "Let there be light." And there was light. There was light, or light came, I don't remember, light came to be.
But you're correct. The Septuagint Greek for that is not be. There is not being light. It's eginito.
Unito, right? Which is the same verb
As to become.
in John 1:14.
Okay.
So do you get it? In the beginning, the Word, who was with the Father, one essence with the Father, and who was himself the uncreated God. That Word, who, as we read later on, in a few verses later, it says, he was the true light coming into the world. He was the true light. And there, the verb is to be. He was the true light, and the world came to be. I'm in verse 10. And the world came to be through him, but the world did not know him. I mean, that verse 10 is a classical verse demonstrating how John is using these two verbs, to be, to become, in order to express the mystery of the divine Logos. So the one who comes to be in the beginning, the light that comes to be, is the same light that comes to be flesh in John 1:14. But anyway, as I said, that was a sidetrack. So let's see if we can get back on the track where we were. Yes. So the one who becomes flesh, is not some creature that God has made and then he becomes flesh, but the one who becomes flesh in John 1:14 is himself the very word of God, the Logos, the Dabar.
That's actually not the Hebrew word that's used.
Oh, isn't it?
It's not.
Oh, what?
Amar, command.
No. I'm talking about. Well, yeah, you might be right, but I think there's the bar in there somewhere because I got it there somewhere. But anyway, the Word who is uncreated, this is the one who comes to be flesh. There's theosis. There is this phrase. There's what that's what St. John. This is what St. Athanasius. This and St. Irenaeus. This is what they're drawing from. The Word became flesh. Now, how about this? That man might become God. Well, what do we read in chapter 1? Where is it? Verse 13. John chapter 1, verse 13. We can start at verse 12. As many as received him, to them he gave the power, the authority, the right to become children of God. To those who believe in his name. And to here, also we need to understand that to believe in the Bible and in Orthodox theology means something different than what it means in Roman and Protestant theology. It means, in a word, I would say it means to love God. To believe is to love God. And so, on that note, to pray is the soul's expression. It's the soul moving in her ardent love, her ardent desire for God. So when you pray truly, when you try to pray, you're not just saying words, you're not just saying prayers in order to score points with God or make him not so mad at you. But rather, when you pray, you're laying hold of your soul's ardent longing, your eros, your erotic desires, the word that the Holy Fathers would use. You're laying hold of your erota, your erotic desire, and you're calling upon God. You're directing your soul's longing for eternity, for beauty, for goodness. You're directing your soul's longing for God. So anyway, to those who love, to those who believe in his name. And you can also see in this verse 12, how to believe is somewhat in parallel with those who receive him. As many as receive him, to them he gave the power to become children of God. That is to say, to those who believe in his name, who receive his name. And again, here's another ontology. Here's another place where the ontology of the Bible is showing through. The name of God is not just so many letters that are attached to him and that are separable, just like with us. We're given a name, and then if we want to, we can change it. In the Bible, the name belongs to the very essence of the person. So the name of God is the very being of God. So when it says to as many as receive who believe in his name, it doesn't mean that believe in the 5-letter name Jesus. It means those who believe, those who receive Jesus himself in his divinity, in his uncreated divinity, in his one essence with the Father. Those who receive him, they become children of God. Here it is, that man might become God. And then it goes on. These are generated not from blood, nor from the will of the flesh, or the desire of the flesh. In other words, not through lust, not through sexual desire, not through the lust of sexual desire, nor through the will or the desire of the male. but rather they are born of God. So I just want you to see that this formula, God became man, that man might become God, is biblical. St. Athanasius, St. Irenaeus, all of them. They're simply, how would you say, recasting John 1:13, 1 John 1:12 to 14. I'm not sure.
So when I read this phrase, we were born not of blood,
Mm-hmm.
not of the will of the flesh,
Mm-hmm.
nor of the will of man. That strikes me as very Genesis 6.
Genesis 6 is where now? What happens in Genesis 6? Is that?
It's the so it's after the fall of man. It's when man goes into it's when the sons of Cain are the mighty ones, the Nephilim,
Okay.
are on the face of the earth. Their imagination is bent constantly towards.
Oh, yes. Yes.
They are trying to become. They're
Yes.
trying to make a name
Yes,
for themselves
Yes.
through their own will by
Yes.
taking the daughters of the sons of man.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Taking the daughters of man. Right.
Okay.
And they're trying to establish their godhood through blood.
Excellent.
So there's a wrong way to go about it.
You're anticipating where we want to go here,
Okay.
but you're adding in an augmentation,
Okay.
an enhancement. We're not going to get to it this morning, but we're going to want to go to Genesis 2:7, where God breathes the breath of life into Adam's nephesh, his nostrils, and he becomes a living throat, a living soul. And then we want to go from there to Genesis 3:23, where Adam and Eve are expelled from the garden. Why? Because they sinned? No. Because they had become as though they were God. This is exactly what you're saying. Dan.
With that, I was just going to say so much of the West has this Masonic idea of apotheosis, which is that
Apotheosis, okay?
making yourself
Right.
through your own
The alchemical process of transforming lead into gold, your flesh into divinity. Yeah. And alchemy is very, very ancient. It was all the way back into Egypt. So all I wanted to show with that is that this formula, God becomes man, that man might become God, it's biblical. But can you see that it does presuppose a certain shape of reality? I mean, if we can talk like this, how does God exist that he can become man without ceasing to be God? How does man exist? What is our essence? Who are we? What are we? That we can receive not some created instrument by which God deals with us, but we've received God himself. We receive God himself. And yet we're not consumed. In fact, we become fully men. What is this ontology that the Bible is revealing in this simple verse? So what I want to say then is, Matthew took us back to the Old Testament. That's where we want to go. The Bible, it is an ancient text for sure, and it is, to whatever degree, it is most certainly conditioned and shaped by its cultural context. The cults of Isis and of Ishtar, of Marduk, Dionysius. I mean, the mythology and the mythological understanding, the mythological shape of the world. It most certainly was conditioned by that. But that is not its inner essence. It is not its inner essence. Because let me highlight this. By drawing from one of the ancient philosophers, Parmenides, as I think is the one who it was. Early philosophy was born from mythology. You could say it comes from the womb of mythology. Mythology is like is the spontaneous expression of the soul trying to articulate if you will, the archetypes, the basic structure of the soul, and it just kind of spontaneously manifests itself. That's a real myth. The myths that are constructed in order to make to justify some kind of a war or conquest, I would not call this a myth. A myth is like a dream, just a spontaneous expression of the soul's inner contents. The philosophers, the first philosophers actually were priests of the cult, the priests of Isis. So that when they, it's like when they start philosophizing and start asking questions about the universe and about the creation, about the world, and they want to go beyond just kind of an instinctive whatever my soul feels, and they really want to lay hold of it. They draw from the myth, but they're also very much still in the spirits of the cult. And their philosophy is not some cold, abstract, sterile, mathematical reflection on geometry and astronomy. Their philosophy is as much informed by the spirits of the cult that they're devotees of, as it is just cold, rational speculation or study of geometry and astronomy. So, for example, Parmenides, when he sets out to describe the way the world really is, what reality really is, it opens up with his muse talking to him. And the muse comes to Parmenides and she says, "Now you listen, Parmenides, and I'm going to tell you how it really is." And he proceeds to write his poem, in which maybe it wasn't Parmenides. I'm thinking it was whoever it was. But this is the poem I'm thinking of, in which he sees that there is in fact no movement at all in reality. Being simply is, and all movement is an illusion. Well, you can see the Upanishadic, the Vedic, the vision of Maya. So anyway, my point being that when the Hebrews, the Israelites, were taught the shape of reality, they too were taught by a spirit, because they learned the shape of reality from Moses, who learned it from God on the Holy Mountain. When he goes up to on the mountain of Sinai, remember, he's covered by a cloud. He goes up into the cloud. What do you think that cloud was? You think it was some created substance? No, that cloud was the glory of God. It was the uncreated glory of God. Yeah. And so the law that Moses Moses doesn't write it; it's given to him. The Lord writes it with his finger on tablets of stone, and he gives it to Moses. And included in that law are two things that are really one thing. One thing is how the tabernacle, the tent of skins, must be constructed, and how and all of its appointments. It must be constructed exactly according to the heavenly cabinet, the paradigma, the pattern. Could be constructed exactly like that. But included in that instruction of the worship of the Israelites is also the revelation of how the world came to be. That's where Moses learned what was going on in Genesis. That's where he writes Genesis. So my point is that in the Bible, we're being taken. It's like we're being taken into the Lord's tomb. We're being taken out of the world of the cult All the spirits that are swimming around out there were being taken into the Lord's tomb. And there we're being shown the really real, what it really looks like, how it's really shaped, and how it's actually, and how it moves. So that even in the okay, we got to bring this to a close. Okay, I don't want you to leave just with all of these ideas floating around in your head. I want to bring this plane down to the ground. I want you to. This is something that you can be thinking of. Remember what it says in the Psalms, that the man who's blessed is the one who's meditating on the Lord's law day and night. Well, this is an image of the Lord's law that comes out of the Lord's law that we can be meditating on day and night. Start reflecting to yourself that who are you? Who are you? That in your baptism and in Holy Eucharist, you have received God. The uncreated God is burning in you. And especially if you're going through a tough time of affliction, temptation, you might kind of step aside from that. Just kind of reflect upon, wait a minute, God is living in me. Even those of you who have not been baptized or have received Holy Eucharist, the fact that you've been enrolled into the catechumenate, well, you know what you did? You fled for refuge under the shelter of the Lord's wings. You fled into the cloud that Moses lived in on Mount Sinai. And so you are in the cloud. You are in the Lord. So it's not like God is out there and you're over here fending for yourself, doing the best you can to make God happy with you. No, you're in God. God is sheltering you. God is in you. He's burning in you. So that whatever you might be encountering in your life, however difficult it might be, here's another deification verse. And the light shone in the darkness, and the darkness could not comprehend. So no matter how dark your life may feel, the situation you're in, no matter how dark you might feel, there's a light that's burning in you, a light that's shadowing you that cannot be comprehended. So what if in that situation you were to do a little kind of shift inside? Instead of letting your mind run after the darkness and get all frenzied and all caught up in the hysteria, the panic, the anxiety of the darkness, what if you just want to directed your mind into the God who is burning in you and was shining in you? That might help you to see your situation as just an event in which that the fire of God, the love of God is using to burn away the dross that's in your soul. So then instead of trying to, fix the situation or manage it or whatever, what if you were instead trying to use that situation as an opportunity to work on your spiritual muscles, to keep yourself centered on this God. It's this uncreated God who is in you, the creature. That's what you can be meditating on day and night. You'll be meditating on the law. You'll be doing what you hear in the Old Testament all the time. I'm talking about the prayer of the heart, and it's all over the place in the Old Testament. You just find it all over the place. How many times do you read words to the effect that the righteous one in the Old Testament is keeping the law of God in his heart? He holds the law in his heart. That's the prayer of the heart. That's the prayer that becomes the prayer of Jesus when Christ becomes incarnate. So when you meditate on the law day and night, you are doing an exercise in this prayer of the heart. And this, by the way, is part of the way to theosis, which we'll be talking about as we proceed. Better get upstairs.